the market is still unorganized, and that just really tells us how much more work and how many more brands can do a lot more work in this space. So welcome in that. I think this was really, really fascinating data. Thank you for sharing that with us. I have on the tech side, the first one is Rohin Mittal, who is the director at Yogi. Rohin is an ISB graduate and one of the co-founders of the digital marketing automation software called AdYogi. He has a deep understanding of the digital marketing space, and he and his company make it easier for brands to achieve sales in the shortest possible time. Rohin, I'm sure that at a time when everybody else is saying, where is the business? You must be really rocking it, because every brand, every retailer now has to make sure that they're online, are digital, and are, going to come to you to find a way to make this happen. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from you as to how brands can make this exciting for consumers, both from an experience and an engagement point of view. Welcome.
Thank you.
Naveen Joshua is the founder director, Green Honchos. I must admit, Naveen, the name really got me thinking. I think I come from the world of content writing and research, and Green Honchos grabbed attention. So kudos on that one. Green Honchos, his organization provides full stack e-com solutions. He's an entrepreneur with a passion for internet business. What a good time to be in this over here. I'm sure that you will tell us the new tech stacks that are going to help us overcome the COVID situation. And last, I think I kept this name last simply because his name is extremely complex and it's extremely simple at the same time. So welcome Satyanarayan Vijay Raghavan, popularly known as Sat amongst his friends and colleagues. Sat is the founder and CEO of CasaRetail.ai, an AI-based omni-channel customer engagement platform. He's authored several papers which have been published in international journals, and I must say that his paper on Foundations for a Seamless Customer Experience in Retail has won the top paper award in integration. Sat, welcome. Look forward to knowing, and I did see that, you do a lot of work on loyalty, and I think in today's time, earning loyalty is going to be extremely difficult. The interesting thing was I asked Sat a question saying, has the definition of customer loyalty been a little warped? We always talk about customer loyalties and say that customers should give a brand loyalty. And I asked him, is it really that a customer needs to give a brand loyalty, or is it that the brand needs to give a customer loyalty? And I think he answered it really well, saying that it is absolutely the brands that need to be loyal to consumers. But what is interesting is it's about understanding the consumer and the hyper-personalized engagements that is the normal as brands seek to create thoughtful value-added interactions. So I am going to look forward to listening to you on a lot of engagement and loyalty questions. Before I jump into the conversations, just a quick few announcements, and I promise there are no ads over here for my company or any other participants over here. It's just that a recorded version of the webinar will be available on YouTube. You will also receive a synopsis from the webinar. So please feel free to share with everyone. We would love to hear from you, so we are happy to take questions. Just put your questions down in the Q&A tab, and we will get the panelists to answer those for you. And once again, for any of you who have just joined us in, our topic for today is what is new normal when it comes to customer experiences. And on our panel is Anupam Bansal, Kapil Pathare, Ritesh Sinha, Inderdev Singh, Naveen Joshua, Satyanarayan Vijay Raghavan, known as Sat, and Rohin Mittal. So let me get into the first question and the first segment without much ado. And I'm going to come to you, Kapil. And the question that we all have in our mind is that, everyone talks about the fact that if you do something for 21 days, then that's good enough to form habits. And for the last 40 days, we've been in lockdown. So what new habits do you think consumers have formed, especially regards shopping and especially when it comes to non-essentials?
Well, post-pandemic situation or the ongoing pandemic situation, I would say the customers have already started becoming frugal now. When I say this, we already see a trend where customers have started restricting their spends and focusing more on value for money. So I would say the value for money is going to be a very, very important aspect. And that habit definitely, I think consumers have started following in this last 21 days, as a matter of fact. And also that they are getting quite conscious in terms of brands, irrespective of whether it's essentials products. So because right now we see the purchasing is more towards the essential products, even in the essential products, consumers have started getting into the habits of being a brand conscious. Uh,
Correct.
when we talk about the new normal, basically what is going to be there with the consumer going forward from here, then I feel that is something that a customer who is going to be more cautious and who is going to be more mindful for that matter.
Correct.
Brands that have actually continued for last a month or so to be connected with the customer during this pandemic situation is actually getting a relevant content, is actually getting a relevant gaining favor with those brands which have not been able to connect with the customer during this situation, basically. So
Correct.
when you talk about the loyalist part of it, I think the brands that will be loyal in this pandemic situation is going to actually drive through the customer. And with the fact that we talk about the situations in all the categories of brand, whether it's a textile, a lifestyle brand, a apparel brand for that matter, there are, I feel that certain tough questions being asked by a customer, which is now getting going to be a regular routine format, which could be that those kind of questions were never asked before. For example, where was this particular product now being produced? What about the sanitization of these products, or who has handled these products through the complete value chain? These are some of the some of the questions that a customer is getting sink in the mindset during this 21 days of lockdown or 1 month of lockdown, which is becoming a habitual part of our life.
Rohin,
So what
just
do
to
you think?
yeah, Rohin, just a quick question for you. That given this is happening, and consumers are asking for all kinds of questions, and especially health and hygiene, which were not necessarily top priority for Indian customers, right? When it came to purchases, when it came to shopping, even the health and hygiene of where it is being produced. When all of that is happening, what do you think is going to happen from a communication, from a customer engagement point of view, and where do you think technology and data is going to help with this?
Okay. So I think a lot of communication channels will have to be conscious of the fact that we are going through this pandemic, and a lot of communication has to be around giving comfort to the end users. Now, the good part is we live in an age and era where technology has made our lives much more simpler, and I think there are a lot of things that can be done from part of brands, which can enable consumers to have little more comfort. I was just talking to one of the guys in Zomato, and they are also planning to give some comfort for the delivery partners that your delivery partner has been tested for COVID in last 20 days and he has not shown any symptoms. He's bringing your courier. And those are the updates, let's say, that you get regularly once your order is in dispatch. So that is definitely one. Secondly, there's a concept of contactless delivery, where
Correct.
where a lot of brands are now not keen on getting the COD orders, and there's absolutely contactless delivery where the person gives your product at the probably at your apartment gate or leaves it at the door, and there's a online payment that happens. So a lot of behavioral change will come in through the technology, and a lot of efficiencies will have to be built around those models for brands to have a sustainability in or a viability in having those models. But but I think we'll have to be very conscious of the fact that consumers will be very to purchase from the brand where they are not comfortable about the safety measures.
Okay. Sat, just for you, the question is, cash on delivery was what got the entire e-commerce business rocking in this country. And today, like Rohin said, a lot of brands are saying if it needs to be purely contactless, then cash on delivery is not an option, right? You're using various payment methods and various technologies to actually pay for this. Now, that's a change in behavior that I think is quite radical for India. How do you think brands, do you think this is just an abnormality which is happening right now for COVID and that the consumer will go back to the cash on delivery? Or do you think this is going to be a habit change which is going to see a lot of shifts from, from purchase point of view?
So, it's actually a really tough question in the sense that most of us do not have a crystal ball to kind of look into the future to try and understand, how customers are actually going to react after this, right? But what we can do, though, from a retail brand standpoint, is to be prepared with the techniques to be able to adapt as quickly as possible when those changes of consumer behavior become a little bit more clearer. There are definitely certain things that are needed in the short term. So if you kind of split it into a short, mid, and a long-term kind of scenario, correct. In the short term, things are going to be, very visible into the consumer's mind. Even us, when we purchase, we would want to make sure that the deliveries are going to be clean, they're going to be hygienic, and so on, and people have handled it appropriately. Contactless would give definitely an additional comfort factor, but contactless doesn't necessarily mean a cash on delivery, but it could be a digital payment on delivery as such. Okay. So your types of payment mechanisms could change at the point at which delivery is actually being made. It's extremely important, though, for retailers to have this bag of tricks along with them at this point in time, so that when things actually change, they are able to respond in a really fast manner. That's where tech, I think, can play a huge role.
Okay. Anupam, coming to you, you've been responsible for bringing a lot of changes as far as the Liberty brand was concerned. And in today's day, when, you're seeing that there is, with the lockdown, how do you look at using technology and how? So in the past, retailers have been a little slow, I think, and Sat is talking about agility, and I don't think all retailers have displayed a sense of agility when it comes to adoption of technology. From a brand's point of view, what do you think will happen with this new change in behavior, where the consumer, I think, is going to be a little wary about going straight away into shopping? And I could be completely wrong. So you could also tell me that I'm kind of interpreting this differently. But I just want to understand, how do brands such as yours, which is footwear, which is different, you have to try a pair of shoes before you buy it. Yes, people are buying online, but where do you get the marriage happening and what makes it successful?
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. And it's a great learning session for me as well, while I will be learning from all of you. And I will share some of the insights which we are getting. So definitely India is a very large country and there is no constant behavior what we are observing. I'm seeing a very big different behavior between urban and I would say semi-urban or rural people. We were successful enough to open about 15 stores. And it is important that hygiene was required. As a brand, we were responsible enough to provide that hygiene. But from the consumer standpoint, when they believe in the brand, when they believe in the offering, they know that it is like a hygiene factor. People are not being extra, I would say, panicking or cautious about the whole thing. While at the brand, I'm not saying I would take it lightly, but I'm just trying to share the consumer insight. Okay. One of the exercise which we did was to keep our managers engaged. We used our CRM data to engage with them, to ask about their whereabouts. And once the lockdown is open, if we could do home delivery, we were trying to evolve the model that how we could use technology. And I think I've been in touch with Naveen also, who assists us in developing omni-channel. So we are trying to see how we can create a right balance between I would say, the traditional brick and mortar, which is almost about 95% of the business, and only about 5% comes from online. So it is not that we can completely ignore the brick and mortar piece and completely shift to, I would say, the new technology. While I definitely feel technology has a very, very big role to play, the role will keep on increasing, and we need to marry the two, I would say, offerings to give enhanced experience, uh, is what I feel.
Okay.
Definitely new things like through technology, we can schedule an appointment, I would say, for the customer, whereby people know that this is the time when I'll be exclusively available at the store, and the store will be reserved for me for 15 minutes. That could be an interesting offering. We could localize the delivery mechanism within 1 or 2 kilometer, where our people or associates can do delivery, and our inventory can become live for people around them. So definitely we are looking at enhanced experience situation for our consumers, and I'm sure consumer will evolve with the changing times.
Naveen, before I come to you, just this question to you too. You also run a footwear brand, and I wanted to kind of get a quick sense from you as to saying what what are the shifts that you're bringing into the system, to ensure that your customer stays connected. And I know you do shoes and accessories, both which are lifestyle, both which need a high sense of touch and feel. Where do you see the shifts coming in? Is there a new model that you're developing?
Mute. This line is muted, I think.
Yeah, Inder, you may be muted.
Okay.
We can hear you now. No, we can't. Sorry, it still seems to be mute.
No.
Inder, can you please repeat yourself? Sorry, we couldn't hear you earlier.
May want to sign back in again, I guess.
So, you may continue with other panelists.
Yeah, sure. Naveen, it's a very interesting thing that we were speaking about earlier, and you are. So when this has happened, what do you think are the new? We've all spoken omni-channel. Not everybody has succeeded in doing the omni-channel presence. There's been this whole thing of physical, digital, all of that. There's been a lot of words which have been bandied about in the world of e-commerce and all kinds of things. Are there new aggressive models coming in? Are there new ways of thinking that brands will have to bring on board? Given that now, there was a time when brands could afford to say, I will see digital adoption. Today, digital adoption has become a must-have. What are you seeing as conversations that brands are having with companies such as yours?
So yeah, thanks for bringing me in there. So I think one of the key things really is there has been in this 30 days probably a whole new adoption segment and a customer segment. Earlier, a lot of the e-commerce was between 20 to 35 years of the user base. I think that major shift, I would say, which has opened up a 35 to 50-year-old customer base, which is, needless to say, a much more mature customer base that is a lot more open to not only pulling down the average selling price, but also, really coming on to handheld devices, getting a lot more used to it, is really what I think will drive the next few months of consumption online, where more serious purchases could tend to happen online as well. The other thing we could go into a slightly more detail later is just the concept of essentials versus non-essentials. I think what is essentials in the first 30 days or 45 days will completely change over the course of time.
Correct.
Things like, athleisure, mother care, baby care, home, kitchen, all these segments will end up becoming essentials. I think the definition will change only to excluding certain aspects as non-essentials, which will probably be only any categories that have congregation, or bringing people together, which is just the opposite of distancing. The others end up being essentials in some way or form. So we expect a lot more digitization in those kinds of models as well. I think Anupam mentioned about how every brand is talking about omni-channel. I do clearly think that this time a lot more from the demand side, omni-channel will have to become a reality rather than a buzzword for the last few years. So as a tech product team, which is one of our key, service offerings, we have also, adopted a store to home model, which I do feel is going to be a game changer, because even the omni-channel erstwhile model had consumers having to come to the store and then getting served by inventory that is virtual. I think now the store has to go home, and loyalty will play a much bigger role. I think even offline brands have a real game with its CRM, a lot more focus on repeat purchase rather than only the erstwhile new customer acquisition that digital keeps driving through. So how does tech get ready for that is really what we feel we are driving through tech as an enabler and a forced adoption in many ways.
Ritesh, from a food point of view, delivery, I mean, store to home is something that you guys have cracked really well. I'm just trying to understand, what do you see will change for you as, and like everyone's been talking about the fact that, for example, Zomato is saying that somebody is, has been tested for 21 days, etc. A lot of times our processes or our customer engagement gets impacted by the fact that our delivery partners may not deliver well. What is your learning been as far as customer experiences are concerned, both from a online ordering point of view and from a delivery point of view?
Look, the online ordering point of view has been, taken a huge, rising curve. Has been rising in last recent times. But in going forward with these conditions, Zomato, Swiggy, it's very tough, really tough to control these customer experience through a third-party logistics, which in reality, you can control whatever logistics system that you have in-house. You can control your delivery riders that we are doing right now. But going forward, you will have to be more vigilant on Zomato, Swiggy riders as well. And they have also should be transparent in what they are doing, what are the adaptations they're doing on a health and food safety purview. And this contactless delivery is also the most reliable thing that food service partners or food brands are adopted nowadays. Also, a lot of brands should adapt to tamper-proof food packaging that we have adopted as of now. But a lot of brands has also adopted that nobody can tamper the packaging in which the food is going to the customers. And also, FSSI has come up with a lot of guidelines and certifications which would come into force in very recent times, and it will be necessity for every individual, be it in a food brand or be it in a Zomato or Swiggy kind of organization, where everybody needs to be certified and trained under those parameters, failing which they would be maybe controlled or not allowed to do certain businesses or certain segments.
Ritesh, do you see more and more food brands investing in their own delivery channels rather than
foresee,
depending on
yes,
partnerships?
I foresee we have been talking to some brands who are more on a delivery, self-delivery model, uh,
Right.
who are not confident on going on a Swiggy, Zomato because, or rather, a lot of delivery aggregator like Dunzo and there are a lot of like that Lala Move and all those. So, in spite of the fact you ask them to be, vigilant and all, it's very tough to control them. So a lot of brands have now started working on getting part-time delivery riders like we are doing, so that we can keep a strong vigil on them. And it will be a easy for us. I will say it will be easy task for any food delivery brand to control their own resources rather than controlling the outside resources in the system.
Sheetal,
Okay.
Mr. Inder has logged in again. Just
I was just going to check on that. Inder, welcome back. In fact, for you, Inder, the question is that if there is so much of change happening and there is so much of the digital speak happening, one of the big challenges that brands have had in the past is how do you measure the impact of everything digital? Whether it's your spends, whether it's the advertising, whether it's implementation of technology. How do you think that, how are brands looking at the measurement of metrics when it comes to going digital?
See, hi, am I audible now?
yeah.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So, for us, obviously, though obviously for everybody, the focus area remains that going forward, digital or online is going to make play a very big role in terms of whether it is sales channels or it is advertising. There's no doubt about it. But, a product category like ours, footwear, the challenge, like you said earlier, is the fact that people do like to try it on and do like to, physically experience the thing before they make the purchase. Even though we've seen a shift of ordering through online, however, the return rate still remains extremely high.
Correct.
The return rate for especially leather footwear, is close to about 30 to 35%. So that obviously is a very big concern for brands like ours. That while there is a shift, how do we actually manage to bridge the gap of this whole return thing and all that sort of a thing. Cash on delivery obviously is also another area which has sort of been a challenging area, because the return rate in cash on delivery is even higher, if I can speak of. So we're looking actually at a hybrid model where we can use the existing distribution network, because we don't have our own retail points, but we have distributors which are very active distributors in a particular territory. And I think I mentioned that to you in the email that I sent also, that every area of India is like a new sort of as far as consumer preferences is concerned. So we are trying to use the distributors, the strengths to actually try and make a hybrid model where they can reach out to their existing customer base through their active retailers and try and make a delivery, home delivery kind of a model, a hybrid kind of a home delivery model. And that's where I think we need to focus on, because the Indian retail fabric, I think the mom and pop shops, I think is a very, sort of important area. And we've seen that during COVID also, that the Kirana stores have played a very big role. Similarly, obviously, our local retailers are in touch with the consumers in a more personalized manner, and Indians like that sort of a personalized touch. So in digital, we need to kind of, map out that how can we recreate this personalized experience, which actually is there on the offline space. And for footwear, I think that's a challenge that we will have for going forward. And I'll have to reach out to, honestly, the digital partners, try and see how this, hybrid kind of a thing can happen in terms of that.
Kapil, sorry, go ahead.
I said, in terms of, hygiene, I think there was a question regarding that. I think the edge that brands will have over unbranded, and that's a big challenge for, again, our food category, where 80% of the business is in the hands of the unbranded, players. I think brands follow a basic hygiene standard anyway. Like the raw materials that we use, we already make sure that certain enzymes are not used in those. We treat the shoes with an antibacterial coating before we send it out to the consumer. We just didn't, stand up and shout out loud that we do this. It was taken for granted that, being a brand, we do provide certain basic things, and that should be something which is expected from a brand, like quality for that reason. But now through digital and through communication, we are going to be basically communicating that more in terms of obviously saying that, when you're buying a branded product, do expect a certain hygiene and a quality standard, which is, sort of to be taken for granted really otherwise.
Sure. Kapil, from your perspective, is there a new metrics, or will the same metrics for measurement continue as far as impact, or if you had to look at the efficacy or the efficiencies of digital?
I feel that technology overall will going to play a very crucial role in the coming future for the retail perspective, because reaching out to customers through technology is going to be crucial, and more important would be translating the retail experience via this medium of online is going to be a much bigger challenge. So yes, more and more sets of retail brands would utilize the channel of communication with their consumers, driving through the brand offerings through social media, say WhatsApp, or for that matter, mobile apps. So this is going to be a scenario for, I would say, at least a year or so, where all these engagements would take place in this particular channel. Now, the most crucial factor I would like to mention here is educating the audience through this digital platform. Yes, is gonna be a very very challenging task with all the retailers mostly. Education about the health information, which can positively transform into the brand products and services for that matter. And when one are sitting at home today for last 30 days or so, uh, entertainment and edutainment, I would say, should be now the next way of engaging the customer. So technology definitely is going to play a very crucial role. Over to you.
Okay, Rohin, just wanted to bring you in on this. You do a lot of digital communication, advertising spends, etc. Are you seeing brands ask you different questions today? Are you seeing brands ask you that this metrics doesn't work for me anymore? How is the return on money spent being looked at from brands when you look at digital, especially given the fact that, everybody seems to be saying, I don't really know what the ultimate metric should be. Everybody's trying to find their way around it. So, and we've been digital for a while, but there still seems to be some confusion around that.
So I think the matrices will definitely change, and a lot of matrices will now be linked to the revenue for whatever spendings the brands are doing. So far, my interactions with, let's say, my set of clients have been that still not very shy to spend, but they definitely want a bigger bang for buck in terms of whatever they are spending. And the best part in digital is that you can actually slice and dice so many parameters that you will be definitely very easily able to analyze what kind of a geography, what kind of a product range, what kind of a price point is giving you a better ROI. Just very simply, for example, let's say the top tier cities, top 10 cities, might give you maximum volume in terms of e-commerce sales, but the next set of 30 cities might give you more efficiency in terms of the spends that you do there. So it's always important to build your customer journey very strongly on the basis of numbers. So even if, let's say, certain product ranges are just getting people to come onto your website, that is a key metric to build your upper funnel, which you can monetize later to sell a high value product. So I think where brands see good ROI coming in, they will still spend more, but a lot of it will move from pure a branding campaign or just an eyeballs campaign to a performance-driven metric. And I think digital is the best channel to go forward in that.
Sat, for you, AI is going to become important. Like everybody's talking about how do I give store experiences digitally? There's an interesting question which has also been put up by our participants, which says that implementing technology itself takes very long. So what are we talking about? Why are we talking this, the COVID crisis may end in some time. Why is a implementation, which could easily take up to a year, being discussed so much? And why are we saying that that's going to make such a big difference? So I'm just trying to understand from an implementation point of view, do you believe that today there is technology and there is solutions which can be done quickly, don't need to have very long gestation periods? And the second is that when it comes to expenses or implementing tech like AI, does it justify the cost? Because every brand is currently looking at what is my ROI going to be? What am I going to measure it with? So just to look at it specifically from an AI point of view.
Sure. So there were two questions in there.
Yeah.
I think retailers traditionally have gone with some of the bigger players. I don't want to name the players and get into trouble, but they've gone with the bigger players. So, enterprise class software. And there is a natural tendency where projects take a year and a half to complete and so on. That doesn't necessarily need to be the case, right? So I've been working with agile teams for almost a decade now. And we have been able to deliver software in months, in weeks, rather than typical year timeline kind of periods. This is, and I'm not talking about smaller things as well, right? So very recently we did an implementation for an integrated digital platform. E-commerce, omni-channel, buy from store, pick up, deliver from store, research online, buy offline. I mean, there's a bunch of things that we did along with our AI-driven, CRM package, which gives you a lot of insights that helps you to get closer to consumers and so on. Along with the omni-channel offers management and so on. All of this put together, we did it in 3 months flat and got it rolled out. Tech is at a place where you could actually roll things out. You just need a really good digital native partner to be able to do it. But if you do have the kind of skill sets, and we do have the kind of skill sets now, where we could actually do that. Earlier, tech used to be a limitation. Some of the legacy software do have limitation in terms of the ability to do integrations very easily and so on. But tech has evolved quite significantly over the last 4 or 5 years. So from a tech standpoint, I think it's more of a misnomer that tech implementations take a while. You just need a really good team and a smart team to be able to do that. That's number one. Two is from an AI standpoint, AI as such is a very overused and abused word as such. I feel personally, right? People call small analytics things that we do as AI. True AI, it does take, it's more about statistic models, learning from those models and so on. But when you're actually doing those types of things, the key thing is it's always optimized towards one business driver or not. If you have any person that's actually talking about AI and not asking you what is the business driver that you're not optimizing on, it's hogwash at that end of the day, right? So it's almost always tied to business benefit. Whatever parameter that you're trying to optimize, if there's no learning component in it, it's actually not AI, it's analytics at the end of the day. That's actually driving it. So these two things, if you watch out for from a retail brand standpoint, you can ensure that you can actually drive value from it. And then it's just financial model in terms of how you want to, work towards actually getting there. So that's.
Naveen, before I move to my next segment, do you want to add anything to what Sat just said?
Yeah, since the specific question was on engagement metrics, I'd definitely, like to change it to that. And in terms of, yes, we have seen, Musafirji was also mentioning about returns and online payments. See, even for purchases that happened online in Feb, which was pre-COVID in India at least, no one was taking returns back anyway, even when it was valid for returns, as a policy. So I see that as a phenomenon changing even in online and offline. Same with payments. Contactless payments would mean digital formats of payments and reduction in CODs, whether it is online or offline. So those would be purely hard metrics in terms of the ROI. And speaking on the digital and the tech side, I think Rohan mentioned about conversions. I think a lot more sharpness into pure play ROAS or return on ad spend metrics rather than vanity engagement metrics is definitely what we are hearing and seeing, and that's only obvious, really. Last but not the least, on the question on the tech, I think, yes, there is monolithic pieces of tech implementations that take years and years, especially things like ERPs, etc. But I'd like to kind of change that from, in terms of SaaS software. A lot of them are implementable pretty much within a week, and they are self-learning tools that just kind of keep getting better over the course of implementation. So, whether they are search tools or, as I had said, AI tools, or actually even the platforms, the front-end platforms that actually enable transaction and data capture are actually much easier and quicker to do. Adoption and enablement just has to happen now. So, yeah.
Okay. Naveen, you had actually mentioned to me the fact that everybody is going to go into measurement. Sorry, not you. Rohin, you had mentioned to me saying that it is going to become more measurement-driven metrics. But in today's day and age, where there is no selling happening, correct? How do we keep our consumers engaged without keeping the sales piece in mind? Because we are not selling. Today, for the last 30 days, we haven't sold. And for the next 30 days, possibly, we will not be selling to them. So Anupam, from a brand point of view, I want you to come in and tell me that how are you looking at engaging with your customers? Because it's not about a sale, or it's not about a product. It's not about any of that. So while there is no sales happening, how do you keep the brand engagement alive? And Rohin, the question to you from the tech point of view and the measurement point of view is that, yes, as the markets open, you will go into something called how much sell are we getting? But today, how do you build engagement with the customer? So Anupam, first to you, and then Rohin to you.
Okay, so I think it is very, very important to create engagement. And you have to be in touch with not just customers, to employees, to vendors, to stakeholders, to banks, to everybody. I think keeping in touch is the most important thing which we should do. And I think I would myself and encourage all my team members and all my stakeholders to keep engaging. And today, I think all companies are following different kind of engagement strategy, whether it is about taking care, whether it is about offering help to them, support to them, confidence to them. I think those are very, very important things, and very, very relevant. And these would be the relationships which will be built over years, and which are real emotional relationships. The point I would like to do is, how can technology help us to make it more personalized and emotional, rather than spray and pray kind of a relationship, whereby we put some Facebook ads or Google ads and we constantly keep on engaging with the newer set of people. I think it is important to see how we can strengthen our relationship. Also, I would like to understand, would the trend go down from the global perspective with the new laws coming in, that all revenues were going to Facebooks and Googles? Would there be Indian piece, or more, I would say, inherent engagement tools where you would be able to spend lesser amount of money and get a better return from the existing customer? So I would like to learn more about that from the technology standpoint.
Rohin, 1 second before you answer, Kapil, I'm going to ask you to come in over here. At a time like this, a lot of brands are pulling back on their advertising budgets or communication budgets, right? It's normally the first thing that gets cut off. And so therefore, it's quite a dichotomy that at one side, we're saying that we must engage with customers. On the other side, we're saying that there is no money to engage with customers. And so from a brand's perspective, before I go to Rohin, and I'm sure that's a question, or that's something that Rohin is also facing as challenges, how do you take that? How do you decide where and what needs to be done?
Yeah, obviously, many of the brands would be definitely pulling down the advertisement budget, for that matter. The reason so far could be but natural, because since the start of the situation in March end, which is about 22nd of March till now, I'm sure that no one would be looking forward to spend on the advertisements. But having said this, the classification of advertisement here would be definitely required to go through forward. So what could be the BTL activities and the ATL activities could be subdivided. So obviously the below the line activities right now is not possible at the.
Kapil, I'm going to interject here. I'm going to only focus on digital for the time being. I'm not even going to go into ATL and BTL because I think the whole crux is how do you stay engaged digitally?
Yeah, so the point I was trying to make is because of both the activities are not going through, digital is the only medium which is getting focused right now from the brand's perspective. And when we talk about the advertisement perspective in digital terms, yes, there are sets of advertisement budgets definitely been planned for the digital platform since the start of the financial year in the start of the process. But however, right now, customers definitely are looking forward for the most important part is the engagement through digital platform. So I'm not really convinced that complete dish off of the digital budgets would be taken away by the brands as such. Because right now, brands definitely wants to be in the customer's mind. They do not want to go out of sight, and hence they would be only focusing on digital medium, and that too at the extent of uh, 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 top 3 priorities of a digital medium as of now.
Okay, Rohan, over to you.
Yeah, so I would like to second what Kapil has said. I think definitely what we are also recommending is brands to continue with ads, definitely at a much lower budget, and a blessing in disguise is that the advertising cost has come down drastically low. So what you were earlier able to do, let's say for a lakh of rupees in terms of advertising, currently you are able to do the same impact of advertising within 20-25,000 rupees.
Okay.
This will change since nobody is in a, let's say, hardcore selling mode. So what can be done right now? There's a lot of new audience which is now spending time on social media. So brands should actually be little more aggressive to reach out to such kind of audiences. Make sure that they click on the product, come to the website, so we know that what kind of hero products are currently going on the website. There's one more opinion that the moment lockdown ends, or let's say in a phased manner, there's a pent-up demand which will probably get addressed in next 15 to 20 days. Unless we are building a top funnel approach where we have a lot of people, visitors, with there's some preferences on the website or a wish list, we'll be able to capitalize the moment that frenzy happens, if that happens for the next 10 to 15 days after the lockdown. So I think the matrices will change, but brands should always look at it from an investment angle along with the engagement angle, which they will definitely be able to monetize once things normalize. So I would say just look at it with a minimal 20% of the budgets, and try and find newer audience, newer people, newer geographies for your products, and then capitalize once, let's say, things are back in shape.
In that, a lot of people are, and a lot of brands are talking about a huge amount of inventory pile up, right? Everybody is talking about the fact, and I was just listening to another conversation that was happening, and people were talking about the fact that the orders which were to be placed for autumn winter have kind of been shelved and everything's being cancelled, etc. Do you believe that we as retailers have fallen into a trap of not doing out of the box thinking and not engaging with customers? So for example, if you did what I call the preview version. So you give me a preview of the autumn of the next season collection and say pre-book. And whenever it opens, I will deliver it to you. I'm just wondering where is it that retailers are falling into the trap of saying, I have inventory, nobody is shopping, and therefore I can't do other things. Is it that, we've fallen so much into the trap of we only do physical stores, we've forgotten. Like, I can imagine that if a brand like yours allowed me to do using AI a fashion show which was customized to the shoes I selected, I'd happily place orders for October, November. Because it's not like it's what I need today. It's something that I can afford to wait for. So I'm just trying to understand, have we forgotten new out of the box thinking ways, or is it that y'all are doing something which is very, very different from what you have done in the past?
See, the reality, Sheetal, is the fact that people are sitting on inventory. I mean, there's no doubt that we had just shipped out the spring-summer collections and they barely reached the stores and the lockdown sort of happened. So that is a reality that we need to recognize, and we need to help our channel partners to no doubt liquidate that. The easiest way to do it is obviously discounting, and that is something as a brand we are not very encouraging on. We even on the online space also, we don't blatantly discount. That's something that we've stayed away from. So in terms of inventing new ways, there was a discussion that I had with one of the retailers a couple of days back, and he in fact gave us this idea that, can you make me a catalog, a digital catalog, which can be shared over a phone of the inventory that I'm carrying. And that is something that, instead of the whole basket that we display on our, portal, which might not be available with him, and that's not relevant to him. So we made a customized, small catalog for him for about maybe 30, 40 styles, which he said that he has the, CRM data with him of the regular customers that are coming, have been coming to his stores over the period of so many years. And he would like to circulate to them and say that, okay, fine, while you're sitting at home, or even if the lockdown does open and you, instead of coming to the store, if you want to choose from this catalog, then if you let me know, then I'll send my salesman to the house with maybe a choice of 3 or 4 of the styles that you choose. And then you can order it and I can deliver it to the house. So this is one of the ways that we're doing things differently, or at least trying to do things differently. In terms of, that how the promotions will happen, I feel that definitely the overall economy needs to be uplifted. So therefore, within the mall, I think cross promotions amongst product categories might be an idea which we would like to explore. That, you buy a shoe and we'll give you a movie ticket free, or you buy a movie ticket and you'll get 10% off. So instead of, just giving blatant discounts, we are trying to invent other ways to kind of, help other players also. It has to be a joint effort to bring the economy up. And that's one of the ideas that we are going to float. I'd just like to make one point regarding the social media and the posts. We were having a discussion amongst within the company to say that should we go more aggressive as far as digital marketing is concerned. And I have a separate, different view to that. I think, during this lockdown, people have had an overdose of social media. And they're getting sort of, annoyed when you try and push too many things to them. So though we have kept a larger budget when things do start opening up, we actually have tried to tell our digital online partners to actually put only relevant posts and not sort of bombard the customers with, unnecessary things, because they're getting social media fatigue, if I can, use the word. And we've only concentrated on things like shoe hack is a thing that we have, that how can you take care of your shoes while you're at home? There's simple methods that we suggest, and those are the relevant things that we're trying to push to them, rather than just trying to, overly sort of, send them things which they get sort of annoyed with the overdose of social media, so to speak of.
Okay. So Sat, do you have any point of view on this? I mean, I just feel that a lot of innovations can be done, but at this point in time, I think we've all gone into what I call the panic mode of saying, no, nothing's moving, and therefore what next? What's your take from a tech point?
So it kind of goes back from an experience standpoint that the customer is looking for when they get out of it, right? From a short-term standpoint, I think there would be this one. I actually like what Inder is doing. In fact, that's something that we suggest to some of our customers as well. That it needs to be, what we can do is to be, doing things that engage and add value to customers at that point in time in the short term. Right. So, in fact, I was doing a study on how the markets actually rebound, how the economy rebounds on some of these pandemics, whether it's H1N1, whether it's SARS, whether it's Ebola, and so on. Almost always a year after the pandemic, markets have grown by 20% consistently across the globe, not just in India, but across the globe. So the question is, how far is this lockdown is going to be, and how much of an impact are we going to have? That's the short-term impact that we need, that most people are talking about, right? At this point in time, and this is like no other lockdown, salaries are gone, salaries are cut, jobs are gone, and so on. So this is a slightly different thing than SARS or Ebola or any of the others, given that it's very, it's very widespread in nature. But this is also a great time where retailers can look at putting together some pieces of the puzzle, right? So, for example, putting in place mechanisms that will allow you to get closer to customers, understanding behavior in a much better manner. Those are things that would have taken maybe a little bit more time from a customer retention standpoint. Most folks are looking at acquisition because the market's so large, right? And you can keep expanding either stores or digital footprint, and acquisition was the name of the game earlier in terms of getting customers to, in terms of increasing revenues. But retention would definitely, I think, play a critical role going forward, and putting in place those mechanisms where you can say, for example, since a lot of shoe retailers are here, mechanisms where you understand what types of shoes are customers buying, a particular customers buying, with what frequency are they buying. The frequency may go for a toss now, but when the economy improves, what should we actually be pushing to the customer at the point in time in terms of engagement, all right? Not necessarily discounting. Similarly, I'm also not a big believer in actually discounting a lot, in terms of this one sends a bad present. But there are things that you could do in terms of trying to understand how would inventory actually move. How can you forecast what areas do inventory actually move? Those are critical things that you need to be doing at this point in time to understand where, in case you need to discounting, you can do that. Can you repurpose inventory to a different place where the lockdown is actually going to go off in stages? So can you actually repurpose inventory? Those are things that where you can put in technology in a smart manner, so you can actually help to tide over this midterm impact. Right. So after the first 3-6 months, I actually think markets will actually go back to where it was and beyond that as well. That's been consistently proven in every case.
Ritesh, coming to you, food has definitely been an aberration in this situation, right? While I understand that there were a couple of weeks where food deliveries were not allowed, etc. What are things that food brands are doing today to ensure that your customer engagement is at its highest? Ritesh, you're on mute. Will you unmute your microphone?
Yeah, hi. Am I audible?
Yes.
So in a scenario where the sales cannot be predicted right now, so there are a lot of things that we have been doing at our place is we are doing a lot of course, the social media activities are happening. There are a lot of live cooking sessions, how to make, for example, a biryani at home and things like that we have been doing right now for customer engagement. We have been doing a lot of live session with celebrities on Instagram and all those. And also the most important thing that we have been trying to do is, giving customer a confidence where we are taking very strong measures, and all the measures that is need to be need to have to control this epidemic and have a healthy working environment. So a lot of training is happening through agencies and outside portals and in-house training team to gain the confidence of the staff and make them understand how important is hygiene levels, and then subsequently informing the customers and being transparent. We are trying to give customers an access to our ERP, limited access to ERP, where we are uploading, temperatures of every individual staff on a daily basis, where a customer can log in, customer can go to our website and see the temperature of the staff from the individual outlet from which they are ordering. So those kind of activities are in place where we can, continuously have that confidence of the customer, which we had prior to COVID-19.
Okay. We've been talking a lot about the fact that brands will need to go digital, but Anupam and Inder, for you, the question is that when and even Kapil, for you, when this lockdown opens up, what are your strategies for at store experiences? What are you looking at that you will need to do for customers to come back into the stores? Currently, there will be a certain amount of how should I say? There will be a certain amount of hesitance to come back into areas which they consider are highly populated. What are going to be, and I'm going to go in this order, I'm going to go with Anupam, then go to Kapil, and then go to Inder. Anupam, what are those 2 or 3 strategies that you've kept in mind that when this opens up, what are you going to do next? What is it that you're going to do to engage your customers to come back to you?
Okay, I think what I would like to do is, because in India it is very clear that the lockdown is not going up instantly. So I think they would go with I think the green, yellow, and the red. So our strategy for the first month would be more like wait and watch how the consumer is reacting. Just behave normally, making sure that the hygienic conditions are there, and not take any aggressive steps to begin with. Let's understand what the consumer is really wanting to do. Let's understand the challenges, and once those challenges are understood, then probably make a more firmer strategy, because we would not like to fire all the bullets to begin with and then are caught high and dry. We're just making sure that the customer should be comfortable and feel hygienic uh, in the environment.
So what would
That's what.
you do? What would you do to make them feel that they've come into a hygienic environment? What are those systems? Are you putting any new systems into place to assure the customer that, hey, you shouldn't have a problem coming?
Okay, so I think those basic hygiene things of masks and sanitizers, and we are also trying to see if all our salesmen can be tested, which is not being the possibility right now, and to give them the environment of coming to the sanitized environment. So we are already getting our stores sanitized, providing masks and sanitizers, which is something which is available at this point of time. Part of our strategy is also to get all our people tested so that we can give an assurance that all our sales staff is negative and it is comfortable. We are trying to create an appointment mechanism so that the stores are not crowded. We are also ensuring that too many salesmen are not available. As far as home delivery is concerned, we are already activated. And in fact, we have done some home deliveries from some of our stores, which the consumer is kind of enjoying that. But again, we are not going super aggressive in any of these at the moment, because still the situation is very sensitive and still we don't want to go and cross the boundaries. While we will be adapting to all such, I would say, precautions which are required, which the consumer would demand once they are in the store. The number of footfalls at the moment with about 10 to 15 stores which are open is quite limited. Probably I would like to understand from some of the panelists who are into food trade where the business is already open, what are the consumer, I would say, expectations, and what is the kind of business improvements, because the restaurants are closed, the home delivery is the only option. Are the consumer really wanting to explore those opportunities, or still they are kind of avoiding such things? So if there are some statistics which will give us some kind of learning how the consumer will react once we open up.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, you've talked about the fact that you're going to take care of testing your, your employees. You're talking about deliveries at home. How is all of this impacting profitability? Is it coming at a large cost? Is this coming at a time when, is this going to impact business profitability to a large extent? All these shifts.
See, right now it is too early to comment upon the business profitability because the whole volume is too low. Because today we are only trying to say, can we get up? And whatever cost of getting up is there, we are willing to put that cost. I'm saying today, even if my delivery is costing 500 rupees, which in a normal business scenario may not be a viable option, but today you're just saying, can I explore? Is that the direction consumer is wanting today? I think it's very early to comment upon the profitability. Once the consumer is wanting, then probably we'll look at what is the best possible mechanism to do so, and how do we really cut costs, and how do we evolve business model from there. Today, as far as we as a national brand, we are not looking at profitability as the key thing in the short term. To get consumer back to store is the only thing which we are looking at.
Okay. Kapil, what about you? What are those plans that you're putting in place for post-lockdown?
No, I think Anupam definitely covered a lot of pointers on that. But to furthermore add that, I would say that as a retailers, one will have to cover smaller things which customer will feel confident and customer would feel safety about themselves. So obviously, from a brand perspective, from a retail perspective, considering the safety factors of the employees will be definitely the first key factors. because unless the employees are tested safe enough, the confidence level would not be generated towards the customers. And hence, considering all these factors about from the stores are actually at what locations and they come under the what kind of zones are also going to be very, very important for that matter. Secondly, I would also like to say that once the customers, we would also like to address the or understand the issue of today where the customers go and purchase at the essential supermarkets or departmental stores, because the kind of environment today they are surrounded, basically the way you enter the stores, there is a temperature checks going on. You have to enter the stores if there is a mask been worn by a customer, so there is a compulsory mask been worn by a customer, and also sanitization of our hands. So all these factors, the customers are definitely going to get used to such kind of environment situation post the lockdown also. And hence I feel that as a retailer of every other category, these are the basic requirements which everyone will have to pass by. Some of the facts that a retail store can also run through inside the store, if they have a provision of say television, which earlier they might be running through a lot of their internal promotional ads, could be a video of a hygiene and how a complete store and how the complete hygiene factor is taken care of in the retail shelf. So I think these are some of the parameters that one will have to go through this. But having said this, these parameters can keep on changing as we arrive in the closeness of opening up of the lockdown situation.
Okay. Inder, what do you feel is going to change for you once, what are your strategies for post-lockdown?
So my take on this is slightly different, and a strategy that I propose is slightly different to this. I think people are, quite used to now understanding the fact that there is a certain amount of precaution that they have to take if they're going to come out. And there are the norms which have been put forward by the government in terms of, if you are to open the store, then these are the norms you have to follow. So when a customer does come out, he does not need to be told that again in the face that, oh, there's again this whole fear. Why are you asking him to come out? You ask him to come out so that, you can sell him something, or that fact, make him feel good. So I think in my approach, we would actually celebrate his coming to the store and actually try and make the environment much more friendly in terms of a good music playing, in terms of, talking about anything else except for the safety things, because those safety things are already a norm that will be followed if the store is open. So you don't need to kind of reiterate that fact. Let him be feeling happy that, I'm finally out there shopping. Give him a good shopping experience, reward him with certain things, like maybe, okay, even if he doesn't buy a product, maybe give him a free mask which is branded, give him a free pair of socks, that, okay, thank you for coming out, thank you for coming and supporting the retail, thank you for, being brave enough to do that. We need to, take this fear out of the minds of the people. I think India, by and large, is quite, has fared quite well, to be honest with you. We have natural immunities which are in place. We've educated the people for 45 days or 40 days now that these are the things to follow. Let's not try and remind them of that. Let's give them a good, nice environment. And while we are taking care of the safety things anyway, it's not something which needs to be told to them again and again that do this, don't do this, that's my opinion. Okay, I might be looking at it differently, but that's what my opinion is.
Okay, that's fantastic. Actually, I think nobody needs a reminder of what we're going through. To some extent, I agree with you over there. When I'm out there, it's about. So that was actually going to be my question, saying that in this whole thing of reassuring.
I have to be at another meeting on a government platform. Sorry,
no problem, Inder. Thank you so much for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure having you here.
I have to fight that battle of Make in India. I think that is very critical, that we should try and encourage, and I should say it on this platform, that the Make in India thing is a thing. I think I would encourage the brands on the platform over here and the panelists that please spread the message that we need to support Indian-made products, and that's something that should be a social message, that let's try and support the Indian economy by supporting the Made in India thing. Thank you so much.
I'm with you on that.
Thank you, Anupam. I know
Absolutely.
that. I know your feelings on that.
It is about your Make in India thought process.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Inder, for joining us, and all the very best.
you.
I hope we see more Make in India brands.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Naveen and Sat, I just want to understand that when the stores open up again, now that we've, the customer has become digitally savvy, is expecting more digital things. What are the tech implementations that you see stores that will have to be done at the store level, correct, to make the kind of shopping experience that we're talking about a little more seamless? So while we've talked about all the things that need to be done digitally, I think there's a lot of things that can happen at the stores, which currently stores have kind of been a little relaxed about, and implementation of tech and all things tech at stores has been fairly slow. What do you think is something that brands will have to do at the store level?
Sure. So Naveen, do you want to go first and I can go next?
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Okay.
I might have a slightly different opinion from some of the offline retailers. Forgive my bias on that, but I do think that so malls, at least for the near future, is out of question. We're talking about high street retail, open streets. I get a sense that the stores, before they are fully functional stores, they'll first become pickup points, actually.
Okay.
Even stores will operate like mini warehouses because there are people out there. And that's where omnichannel play a big role in at least getting some lifeblood flowing into high street retail. So having said that, I think that would then either, further trickle down into the stores turning out to be a little more shop the look or experience zones, which are concepts that exist, because they will have to be, when you kind of figure out that there'd have to be probably 6 feet distances, there'd be probably there'll be no trial rooms, or like in restaurants, there are open kitchens just to show hygiene. Maybe, stores will have to do something about the backroom process. I was on another panel where Celio was saying that if any piece of garment has been tried, they'll probably have to mark that saying it has been tried and sanitized and back on stands. So, and then long queues for checkout and 2 people per aisle. So when these things continue happening, the store format obviously has to change, which is where experience zones, etc., make a lot more, sense. I do feel though, we were talking about engaging the customer. I do feel that store points have much more loyalty than than the online, where it is more in the past been deal kind of specific or price point sensitive. So mobilizing the stores for retail, where the stores could go home in some format, which is more loyalty driven in terms of CRM closer being integrated with the front end, I think is going to be something that is here to stay. Responsible content being put out either in store or at social media handles, where brands, Musafirji was mentioning, should we publish content, should we not? I think that's a double-edged sword. Not being out there talking to your customers is anyway not an option. So we are also advising brands to repurpose their facilities if possible, whether it is with masks or with CSR. We'll have to go out there and connect and communicate, even if it is not for the point of purchase, but more for the point of presence. So I do think digital and tech can play a fairly collaborative role, rather than a disruptive role with offline in ensuring that.
Okay. Zach, what about you? What do you think?
Sheetal, I think it gives all of us, tech partners as well as brands, a chance to reevaluate what stores actually mean, and can we drive a lot of optimization at the store. So, for example, if a store is manned by 10 people always, can we reduce that while increasing the experience of customers to getting to, let's say, 3 people rather than a 10 people manned store at any point in time. and how can tech actually help customers to enhance their experience with lesser people. I think that's a very critical thing that's going to happen as a fallout of COVID. One, do we need as much manpower as stores may not see as much traffic? Two, what kind of repurposing needs to be done, at least in the short and the midterm, so you can actually get things delivered to home or take store to home, as what Naveen kind of mentioned. Three, for if you are anyway going to be reducing staff, you don't want to lose the experience levels as well. So, and it goes back to my earlier point of increasing the experience through digital mechanisms at the store, while actually eliminating on costs that you would incur. It has to go hand in hand is what I feel. And this combination can be made possible through tech. One is the safety aspects. Definitely we need to talk about the safety and so on, but also from an experience aspect, because 3 months down the line, 4 months down the line, safety will start receding at the back. But what mechanisms you put in place now would actually stay going forward as well. So it gives us a great point to kind of think about that.
Okay. So Ritesh, I just wanted to understand that from from a food point of view, what are the changes that you see coming your way once restaurants open up, for example, or food places open up? Do you see shifts coming your way?
Yes, for sure there will be a lot of shift, which has already been seen in cities like Singapore or Hong Kong, where the social distancing and the number of covers that you had in your restaurants are being lessened, and the seating capacity has been reduced to half, which will also come into play in India going further when the government permits opening of restaurants, right? So that is for sure going to happen. Food safety and contactless delivery is it's something which will grow further, at least till next 6 months, which we can foresee. Also, in terms of hotels going forward, I was on a panel discussion a couple of days back where a lot of hotels are proposing self check-in facilities, which will start very soon when the hotels start opening up. Self check-in facilities, you can access your room without the key card even, which is under development. And at the same time, I heard a couple of brands, big brands of hotels in India and restaurant operators abroad, which are planning to introduce robots into food service segment in for restaurant service as well as room service. So food robots are actually in place in some restaurants abroad, not much in India. But still, there are a lot of tech companies in India, based out of southern part of India, like Bangalore and all, who are working on food automation, which will be a part going forward in the F&B sector as well, even for a brand like us who are into food delivery segment, to come on automation, and less of physical handling of food will come into play. Things like that will come up, where we have to be very transparent in the way we source our material, raw materials. How do we handle it? How do we process it? How do we sanitize before we start preparing them? Things like this has to be implemented across all the F&B brands. And I personally feel that the FSI, the regulatory body in India, has has to become very strong in auditing F&B brands and F&B brands in India, and they should be able to control the food safety parameters that a brand is following or not. So going forward, strict norms would be there. F&B sector, I don't see a normalization which was till maybe March first week or second week to happen before 6 months to a year going back.
Okay. Earlier in the discussion, somebody made a very relevant point that we are now getting online a set of customers who has never been online, right? So we've always believed that we're a young country. We've always had the younger audiences who've been digitally very, very engaged with brands. But today you have a slightly older audience which is coming in. So the 40 plus, the 50 plus is now becoming very, very savvy digitally, or at least has broken the shackles of the barriers that they had about saying that I can't do this digitally. From Anupam, from a brand point of view, therefore, how are you planning to do communication experiences for this new set of audiences? Will it be the same brushstroke which will get applied to all, or is it that you will be looking at completely different communication and experiences for this older generation and different for the younger ones? And how do you kind of play with it, because the brand has to speak a certain language?
See, definitely, Sheetal, it is very important and relevant question. So within Liberty brand, we have 10 sub-brands which talk to different audience. So like our kids brand is different, women brand is different, comfort brand is different, formal brand is different. So I think there's a clear-cut communication strategy for each customer, and our digital agency knows already how to target each communication. So that's really important, and we have to have a different communication strategy for each set of people. Whereby I understand that there's a new customer base which will get connected. I also want to put a word of caution here. You know, the whole learning which has come through during this is that technology has, I would say, overplayed, and that's how the situation and pandemic has come in. So a lot of people who would get displaced because of technology, because we're talking about firing so many people and getting over involved in technology. So there could be a huge technology hatred. A lot of people who will get fired because of technology may just say that I don't want to consume this technology and not want to consume online. So we have to have a very balanced approach. So we can't really become too technology savvy, and a lot of balance needs to be created for a lot of people who may lose jobs, who are also potential customers, to feel good about technology and not feel anti-technology.
Okay. Kapil, do you feel that there is this shift which has come in, or is it just, you know, I often think that a lot of my friends who are in the 50s are doing it right now because they don't have a choice. The moment they have the choice to go back to their stores, they're just going to go back to old behaviors. Is that what you think is going to happen? Or is it that they will all have learned, Arey, this is easy?
No, obviously, obviously post lockdown, everybody would actually first like to go out for sure to experience the actual retail experience, to experience the shopping which they were actually missing out
Okay.
on either side. But having said this, I would say that yes, there has been a technological shift to the audience above 50s or so. The most important fact is, I would not say that it's just because we have no choice as such, but at the same time, the most important fact is the technology will also have to come in and support the audience in terms of being a user friendly. If the technology is going to be really a complicated aspect, then probably the audience would not really like to hook forward for it. And most importantly, the a set of audience is definitely following and understanding the use of how is the young generation actually making use of this technology, and what kind of technology they are basically hooked to. So I per se this as not as a term because there is no choice, but then every digital technology will have to have a set of variant audience, because for example, I think uh, a young generation might be hooked up to Instagram for that matter a lot. Not that the same audience might be hooked up. I mean, the same Insta would be utilized by the mother of the child or at the age of 50. So this technology is been playing a role, but at this point of time, I still go back to the point that I am sure this particular audience would definitely like to come back and experience the real shopping experience, what they are really missing out.
Okay. Rohin, in the past, and I prefer to call myself the the earlier generation, the Generation X. And I've often enough quoted saying that in this whole nonsense of India as a young country, I think we've kind of ignored Gen X to a large extent, right? Whether it is brands who don't give you sizes which belong to Gen X, or it's been brands which just refuse to talk to me, or and if I may bring a woman's perspective on it, it's also credit card companies who refuse to acknowledge that I can spend as much as my husband, and therefore all the points that I can kind of utilize are only on male products. For some strange reason, I don't know why there's nothing available for women, right? So while technology has done a lot, there is also this fear that technology tends to do very, very wide brushstrokes. And therefore, how do you bring in customization? How do you bring in the fact that you don't ignore audiences who could be? So let's say, for example, today a 45-year-old or 50-year-old is far more capable of buying the Audi and has enough money to buy the Audi and can experience the Audi and can have fun with it. But there's very few people talking to him. Where do you see these, large brushstrokes, which is mass automation at one level to personalization at another level? Because as you move up the value chain, as you move up the age chain, what you're looking for is things which are far more customized, things which are far more, individualistic. Where is where is this entire shift going to come in from a tech point of view? So they're absolutely right that there is technology which can come in, but let's not overdo it. So I'm just trying to figure out where the balance is from a mass piece of technology to a personalization and highly individualized piece of technology.
So I think a pretty valid concern where I think is that a lot of credit card companies don't look at that segment very attractively. In fact, February only I got my parents the first credit card for separately for both my mom and dad, and things have actually been quite relaxed after that. They've actually cut down on fees. They've actually cut down. Some of them have even gone to even cut down transaction fees to help merchants also. So we'll definitely see a gradual shift in these players opening up and let's say making more friendly, customer-friendly policies. But when a brand looks at this segment of let's say a 40 or a 50 plus a person as a potential customer, what they have to do is that with technology, you can actually play in both the extremes. You can make it overcomplicated just to make sure you are pretty cranky and the UI UX is top notch. However, it's simple, where it should be absolutely, let's say, a 6-click purchase cycle for a 40 or a 50-year-old. So generally, the recommendation is that keep the entire website or the app experience absolutely free for this set of audience. Make sure you promote very relevant products for this set of audience, and to be one good thing is that you will have a better segregation of this set of audience through various platforms. So I'll tell you one example. So Facebook has a decent mature audience on its platform, although it's getting saturated, but it still has you'll find a substantial chunk of 40 plus people also on Facebook. That percentage will substantially go down when you talk about Instagram, and that percentage will probably be not even so, so there are certain strategies that can be adopted only for this segment. But what brands need to be very focused on is we even also tell advise a lot of brands that if that customer is placing an order for the first time from you, which might be the case with 40 or 50 plus age segment, there is absolutely no leeway to move up in your commitments in terms of product quality, in terms of delivery commitments, in terms of the prices that you offer, because I'm sure SAT can add more value and data points to it. But what I know, back to back 2 to 3 good customer experiences can make people your advocates of your brand. So and they're pretty happy with that experience when they order for the first time and they get the product in let's say a committed timeline of 5 days and they love the product. So that really goes a long way in establishing a word of mouth for your brand as well. So definitely it's a low hanging fruit, a smaller segment for sure, but definitely a low hanging fruit for brands.
Sat, there's somebody else who's put a question which is exactly to do with the experience, and they're saying that there's a lot of glitches which seem to come in with technology, and how do we then answer those? So one of the questions that has come in is, how do you plan to handle the the glitches and the costs related to technology? We're all talking technology, but it's not foolproof, right? just as offline is not foolproof, online is not foolproof either. Where do you see, how do you see companies managing these glitches? I mean, you know, if a guy is experiencing you for the first time, he'll forgive you. Maybe the second time, he'll say, and third time, he's going to say, forget it, I'm not going to do this again. So how do you manage that?
So it's an interesting question. More because, so to get to Amazon's level of perfection, right, you need that kind of big bucks to be able to put in that kind of tech to ensure that there is not enough of glitches and so on. Definitely with more cloud investments and so on, if you kind of move to a cloud-based solution, you can auto scale, you can get rid of some other glitches, that type of stuff, right? So there are certain things that you can do from a tech standpoint, but for most people that kind of want to try it out, that too at this particular point in time, if you're going to be putting in tech and you're going to be trying it out, if something goes wrong, normally things will go wrong when you're trying for the first time, the recovery mechanism is more critical. One of the, again, from a data point standpoint, one of the things that we have consistently seen is if your customer is having a bad experience of some nature, whether it's from a store associate, whether it's from a tech or whichever, how fast you can respond, recover from it, and how will you treat the customer going forward plays just as an important part in terms of engaging and retaining the customer. And mechanisms that we can put in place, whether it's on a digital end or on a storefront, which will actually help you to do that, or ones which will actually ensure that retention of the customer is always at the forefront of the business. And that's just as important. So yes, we can do things to ensure that glitches go down, but at the same time, how will we recover, and what are those softs that we can put in place to ensure that the customer has a great experience during recovery is critical as well. So both of those, I think, need to be addressed hand in hand.
Sheetal,
Yeah.
Sheetal,
Go
I
ahead,
want
Naveen.
to add there. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Please feel free to.
I'd probably like to say, when we talked about, technology, there is no doubt that there has to be a balance. I mean, neither offline or online in terms of adoption, and for the customer as well, excessive bent on any side is not fraught with challenges. And that's why the customer uses both and also wants an experience that can transcend between both. It's not a choice. It doesn't need to be an either or. So similarly, as there would be some kind of, as they called in China, revenge buying, once offline, came out a bit. Similarly, there's a lot in India also there are a lot of businesses that are only enabled because of work from home, and that is tech enabled. There were huge benefits for a lot of us. We wouldn't be able to run our businesses otherwise. Retailers have demands at this point in time. Our tech teams are working overnight just to be able to, because of tech enablement. So, I think the reality of the situation has to set in. I think there are no great use cases. The last time any such situation happened was China, SARS, 2003, Alibaba happened, and the rest is history. And the kind of automation that came in even into supply chain and manufacturing changed the face of what China is to the world. And I'm hoping that the Make in India piece and everything else would be the best result possible out of this, and online and offline would both work hand in hand. On the consumer side, I do see that even the expectation, I think Sat was talking about the Amazon experience of, same day delivery, next day delivery is not going to be a possible expectation for everyone else to meet up with at this point. But I do feel just this demarcation in people's minds as consumers, because we serve a lot of consumers through the e-commerce space, of what is essential and what is non-essential, what can wait a bit. There has come a lot of patience into the consumer's mind as well, that, okay, if it's a non-essential, I need it, I want it, I can wait for it for a couple of days too. That what needs to be instantly gratified versus not could also be something that would and could help the industry, because and that's how I see it going. But I do feel that digital first brands will be able to gain a quicker share of the wallet, because the faster the adoption on that side, that reality is out there.
I'm going to open this up for Q&A. We have the last couple of minutes. So I have covered quite a few of the questions that have come into us so far. But audiences, if if you want to put in your questions now specific to any of the, um, to any of the panelists, we're happy to take your questions now. Otherwise, I'm going to do a quick round of wrap up and sign off. So happy to hear any questions.
Sheetal, I'm sorry to interrupt. I have a meeting in another 5 minutes. So if
We
there's
are
any
going to
question to
conclude.
me,
We are going to
Okay.
conclude in the next 5 minutes because we said we would conclude at 1:45. So I'm just opening this up in case there are questions are coming in at this point in time.
Sheetal, there are a few questions which are in the Q&A. You can go through it.
I've already asked most of those. So one of the questions which has come up is to say, what measures should one take for contactless shopping? Anupam, do you want to go, since you have to leave, would you like to take a go at this question?
See, definitely, as far as we are talking about not contactless, we are talking about less contact. So we are trying to create mechanisms of training our people, because in footwear trial, it was very important that the customer and the salesman was close by. So we are trying to come up with mechanisms whereby we create some kind of a distancing. Definitely, we are activating all kind of digital payments, and we are encouraging customers to do e-invoicing and digital payments, so that they don't need to stand up and queue up near the customer. So all of our POS systems are equipped with e-invoicing and digital payments, whereby wherever customer is, he could just use his mobile to either receive the invoice on WhatsApp or SMS, and they can pay sitting wherever they are. So we are trying to do a few things, but definitely no contact would be impossible, because once the person come in, the shoe has to be picked up and brought close to them.
Correct. There's another question which says that, and this is from a startup into e-commerce and online women's ethnic fashion. So I'm going to ask this to Naveen. It says, in the current situation and post-COVID and lockdown, what would be the customer engagement strategy in order to get things moving?
Honestly, it's a tough one. We are all trying to think through this. But I do feel, that players that were able to publish what we call as responsible content will make a better difference if we are able to restore the confidence. I also saw another attendee question about loyalty. Some of them, we really, really need to reach out to them, give them a sense of assurance, because there is CRM available. Some brands have just gone blank in trying to figure out the survival strategies, but communicating with the customer and staying top of the mind in terms of engagement, both from the store level as well as the digital social handles level, through a consistent CRM program must be something that we absolutely need to push forward with across brands. Try and talk to them, try and do surveys, try and figure out what their needs could have changed to. And I do think suddenly even emailers have become something that people are looking at. Earlier, a lot were more into junk. So email marketing could be one of those aspects. Yes, people want to consume fresh content, not only COVID-related content. We have seen videographic content having a lot more view time right now, because there's more consumption of this media. So if we want to communicate, there is a lot more time share available right now to do that, and then move towards the consumption space.
Okay. Kapil, here's a question for you. There's a question on the pricing model, saying that for a fashion business, in order to keep the business floating post-COVID, should one look at a pricing model which is value or semi-premium? I mean, I know that luxury has always been the least impacted with moments like this, but from a larger point of view, is it more value? Is it more premium? What should the pricing strategy be?
No, obviously, because of this complete situation right now, the customers are going to shift to what is actually required. Right now, they are going to the essential purchase. But post the situation also, the consumers will have to give a thought for some time or for the value for money products. And hence, my point of view over here is, yes, in the garment or in the textile segments also, the perception of the value will definitely come in place, and value for product purchase and the perceived value for product purchase will also be considered. So I definitely feel that first thing is there will be a defer of purchasing any luxury products for that matter, and hence in textile and garments, because the value for money will be definitely important. Thanks that we are into this innovative segment, which is also
Essentials.
essential product. So I definitely have the positivity that yes, the demand for this will be still required. And of course, being our brand VIP into the segment where we are into the value for money segment, so I feel that there will be a good demand which can be a part of it post lockdown.
So should a fashion brand stay with the value pricing format, or should they, or can they evaluate something?
I think the whole gamut would be if it's a very luxury brand as such, then probably the luxury brand would have to create a category which can also become a category where the value for money can be created. The value for money category could be created, and this is where I feel that textile or any apparel garments manufacturers will be looking forward to.
Okay.
Can I just add to that, Sheetal?
Sure, please.
So I was actually consulting with Saks Fifth Avenue just post the financial meltdown in US. That was an actual meltdown, right? I mean, here it's a stoppage because of a pandemic, but there the economy melted because of incorrect basics and so on. But when I was talking to them, they had a very interesting observation, kind of struck me, and it may be relevant to this question as well. They saw a large uptake in their online sales for fashion products. Saks Fifth Avenue, everything's high priced. I mean, you don't find value for money type of products at all. So they saw a really high uptake in terms of online sales. Even after the post financial meltdown and people are struggling to get back on their feet, they saw that uptake as well. The rationale that when I was talking to the CMO, what I got was that people did not want to be seen on the streets carrying high-priced items, and they were using online delivery as a mechanism of actually, getting the goods that they needed to them, right? The lifestyle type of goods to them. So if you're in a fashion segment, maybe there's some learning from folks like Saks Fifth, who have actually gone through this period of a downturn, but have still served a segment of population that needs that type of goods. So maybe that's a learning in there. For even for startups or established players who are catering to a different type of product segment essentially.
Sure.
Sheetal, just adding to one thing in the discussion which is happening, there is a brand which Mr. Satya told us just now called eShakti. Right, I think a lot of people would have heard of it in the retail segment. They are just an online platform and meant only for ladies, and do a lot of personalized garments where you can choose your fabrics, you can choose your designs, and even customize your sizes and all, which is prevalent in US. So this is one of our portfolio companies, and they are, I think this is a very good platform where a lot of Indian manufacturers and retailers can gain a lot of way to work during this period where retailing would be a tough time. So just wanted to put forward about this to everyone.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think I've covered most of the questions. I'm going to do a quick wrap up, and a big thank you to all of you. I think what we've really talked about is the fact that in today's day and age, digital is here to stay. I mean, whether we want to avoid it, ignore it, whatever, we can't afford to. We will have no choice but to adapt and adopt digital. The question is, are we agile enough to accept changes as they're coming our way? So it's not that brick and mortar is shutting down, but it's also that digital is here to stay. So that's one key takeaway that I got out of this. The second is that health and safety will become very, very important, especially in the short term. As we go into the long term, we don't know how consumers will behave regarding health and safety, but For the short term, it is going to become extremely important for brands to communicate everything that they're taking as measures on health and safety, as well as assure the customers, but not at the cost, like Inder said, of taking away the experience. So I think what we're really talking about is we need to do a fine balance of things. It can't be extreme digital, it can't be only brick and mortar. It can't be extreme health and safety and at the cost of customer experience. It can't be, let's jump into it. So a lot of brands are planning for the post-COVID launch, but they're also doing a wait and watch strategy. And I think the one key theme that I'm hearing throughout the conversation is it's a sense of balance. It's a sense of balance between people and technology. It's a sense of balance between online, offline. It's a sense of balance between, health and safety and experiences. So, and we, going forward, find that sense of balance for ourselves, find a way to keep all of this together. And I think not over panic with what is happening in our lives. There are concerns, of course, with the fact that, there is no sale, there is going to be lockdowns, there is going to be sign-offs. But from a customer experience point of view, what we're saying is learn as much as you can about your customer, so that when things change, you're out there for them, ready to get the sales that you have to get. Gentlemen, thank you very, very much for being on this panel. I had an absolutely delightful time learning so much from each one of you, and I'm sure that our participants have learned a lot today. So thank you once again, and thank you Fidgets and team for putting this all together for us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.